Hello, BookTube.
Hello, BookTube.
You'll never guess what. We got more books. Lots more books. And David got his mojo back.
I did. I got my mojo back. I was going to say exactly that.
He has literally twice as many books as I do.
No, I was having a crisis of confidence of character yesterday, the kind that only comes around after a breakup or a death, and then I had weird dreams last night. Yeah. I woke up this morning, things didn't get off to a right start, things weren't smooth this morning either, but they turned around when we made it to the Brattle.
Yeah, there were problems with pants. I have told you all for years that pants do nothing but cause problems.
One of us is wearing pants right now.
and while you were asleep last night, you were tossing and turning, and you kept muttering the word vegetables over and over again.
Fruit. I know. We'll see how much longer my body can take of this. My wallet's already gone after this.
So how do we want to do this? Surely you should be.
Maybe I should start.
Should
because this is very much the reverse of what you guys witnessed yesterday.
He got twice as much as I did. But he didn't. In the course of today, he did not get twice as many books. We're talking just about this haul. That's all. I have another video to make of my own.
Yes. And even then, yesterday you did really well. So I'm probably about even now at best. But we're going to start off here with something real intellectual. This is the indispensable Calvin and Hobbes. I have a bunch of Calvin and Hobbes at home. And I'm hoping this is a duplicate. And the reason I'm hoping it's a duplicate, because in the front of this one, it has these great full-page pieces. So like this one says, "Explorers we are, intrepid and bold, out in the wild amongst wonders untold. Equipped with our wits, a map and a snack, we're searching for fun and we're on the right track." Much like us today. But what I like doing with these, if I have duplicates, is tearing them out and cannibalizing them and framing them as artwork for around the apartment. Now, if this isn't a duplicate, that's fine. I'll just put it on the shelf and read it with the other Calvin and Hobbes volumes I have. But
and the cover shows a water balloon headed
Lucy,
for little
Lucy right at the bottom. Yeah.
She's about to get blasted with a water balloon. But oh God, help us! No, you're just gonna avoid.
I'm gonna keep subverting expectations here. Yeah, and then here, this,
you got that.
I did at Goodwill. This is Falling by T.J. Newman.
It's so good.
And I think, if I try, maybe I could be a thriller guy. Just opening whole new avenues of reading. I think maybe I'll read this on the plane too, just to enhance the experience when I finally go home. And then here we'll do a few at once, and then we can go over to you, I guess.
Why did you
this
get that?
Is because I'm going to be a Civil War guy.
No, they don't believe
everybody
it.
knows this. Everybody knows this. So I got to the Gates of Richmond by Stephen Sears, wrote Landscape Turned Red. I have an e-copy of this, but I haven't read it yet, so I was happy to find a hardback. And then here we have This Republic of Suffering by Drew Faust. And this I did grab a little bit on a whim, but your reaction is encouraging.
Great.
Okay,
it's
good.
Great.
Good. And then here, while I will certainly be a Civil War guy by the end of the year, it hasn't been, the smoothest goings in the world. I keep getting distracted by outside factors. And I thought, this book that I just stumbled on, it was out on the sale carts at the Brattle, might be the perfect thing for me. And I mentioned in a video the other day, if any of you watch my channel, that I think keyhole histories tend to be great ways to get interested in subjects. And this is keyhole, and it's relevant to me. This is The Hardest Lot of Men, the 3rd Minnesota Infantry in the Civil War. And for those of you who don't know, I'm from Minnesota, and I live in Minneapolis. So maybe after I do this, maybe I'll read this month, and then it'll be 8 Civil War books every time I go book shopping.
If you think, well, it certainly seems like he's turned over a new leaf, just wait. Just wait for the rest of his books. Well,
go ahead.
I have a New Yorker cartoon collection. I love New Yorker cartoon collections. I really don't care what they are. Even the New Yorker collection of cat cartoons, I love. And that's all that this is. New Yorker, once upon a time, they did they did a whole bunch of these things, a whole shelf full of, what is this one? It's the ghost of that pocketbook I gave you for Christmas. All alligator skin. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna get lost in these things. But I love
the smaller thematic ones a lot more. I do have that box set where it's like the complete 2-volume heavy, and I'll take it down every now and then. But I have some of these shorter collections, and I grab them all the time.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
I grabbed the dog cartoon one all the time. All the time. You should probably do more.
I guess I probably should do more.
I'm just doing one, but you have so many.
And there's no way to avoid it anymore. So
yeah, let's see how our Civil War guy is doing.
Starting here, we'll go with Neptune's Inferno, the U.S. Navy at Guadalcanal. So this is 1942 into 1943. I haven't read this, but I know about it, and I was glad to finally find it. So it's not one engagement. I think there's something like 7 within it. And it's at a really interesting point because you're having new technology come in, like especially radar in this case, but you're still like training the troops. And it's sort of like you're going from an early Army and Navy that's being forged to a more professional and modern one. It's kind of in that in-between period, and it's really interesting for that reason. And then this is The Forgotten Few, the Polish Air Force in the Second World War. This is one I almost passed on. There was 2 that were real narrow like this. One of them I did, but I didn't on this because I know there's meat on the bones in this subject.
Plus, Adam Zamoyski is really good.
Yes. And, yeah, he's fantastic, actually.
I wonder if his father was in the war or something. He would have been a child around the war.
Yeah, he would have. Well, we can look at that later, I guess. And, of course, reading about this stuff, what makes it a little depressing, whether it comes up explicitly or not, is at the end of the war, Poland was under, Stalin's boot. And that's why the war in Europe started in the first place. So that's always a depressing element. But the Polish army, of course, is also very notable. I mean, I'll have some books on this subject you'll see in a minute. But at Cassino, they actually took Cassino. They were the ones to do it. So they were an important part of the Allied war effort in Europe. And then here, this is a fantastic book. This is Japan 1941 by Eri Hota, Countdown to Infamy. And so it's counting down to Pearl Harbor. And it's dealing with what led to Japanese expansion and showing that once things took on a certain internal logic in the Japanese decision-making, that there was no stopping it. And they really had gone too far, something like 6-7 months before Pearl Harbor when they went into French Indochina. That's a really good element of this book. And shows how it was just a bureaucratic mess, the way their decision-making was going on. And it just kind of shows how they stumbled into Pearl Harbor, I guess. It's an awesome book if you haven't read it. But I am talking too much about each one of these, I think.
Their military buildup hit its first obstacle in a wheat field outside Spotsylvania, did it not? Oh, wait, no. No, it didn't. Well, I got this thing at Museum of Innocence by the great Orhan Pamuk. This is a UK Trade Paper Act. That's why I got it. But I haven't read this thing since it came out. Probably 15 years ago. 2009. So that's a long time. I really love this author, so I'm happy to give it a go. I don't have any objection to buying fiction. So,
I got a novel, and then here I'll do these all together. Yes, so these are books on conferences during World War II. 2 of them are on Yalta. So this is the one most people know, I think. This is Yalta, The Price of Peace. And then this is Roosevelt and the Russians, the Yalta Conference. And then the other one I have is after Roosevelt had died, so this is Truman. This is Meeting at Potsdam. And both of these are toward the end of the war and sort of dealing, these conferences are what killed the Atlantic Charter, basically. But how are we going to carve things up after Europe and deal with the end of the war is what these are. And then, of course, Potsdam was also Truman's first meeting with Stalin, which is interesting. And, of course, the location of these meetings is notable, I guess, because Stalin never went to the UK or the United States. They all went his direction. So those will be interesting. And then, should I keep going?
Sure. Still just amazes me that they sat down with that monster. They knew what he was.
Yeah.
And yet, not only did they sit down with him, but they let him do things like, I'm not going to go to your country. You're going to come to me. Granting concession after concession after concession. Well, granting the concessions that started the war. All because this bloodthirsty murderer wanted them.
Well, then FDR gave up so much just to get him to enter the war in the Pacific, and it's dubious, I guess, whether or not it was worthwhile, although that, more than the atomic bomb, contributed, I think, to the Japanese surrender, so maybe there's something there, but yeah. And then these are all
the
Italy.
Army of the Potomac? Oh, no. Oh, no. No. No.
Related? No.
No. Related.
These are great. I'm surprised I don't have any of these. Last year into this year, I made sort of a pet reading outlet for myself of going through books on the war in Italy during World War II. And these are all volumes there that I don't have, so these are going to be fun. Although I know some of the
never see
authors. Yeah, so this is Salerno by Eric Morris, and we'll see this author again actually in a few minutes. And Salerno, of course, is the Allies went through North Africa and then into Sicily, and then from there when they entered Italy, they did it. Salerno was one of the locations, and of course it was much further south than you would think. And then even the Germans anticipated. And it got touch and go there for a little bit. They actually had to use naval gunfire to push the Germans back. And then here's another book on Salerno.
Yeah, that's something like that you just never see.
And then a little later in the campaign, we have Anzio. And I'll try not to give thumbnail sketches about what each of these mean, because maybe I just need to get through them. And then here we have a broader book on the war in Italy. This is The War in Italy, 43 to 45, A Brutal Story by Richard Lamb. It's always interesting to read about the end of the war in Italy, because once Rome falls, and then literally the next day you have Normandy, people tend to forget about it or stop writing about it. And then this is Circles of Hell, Eric Morris, again. And then finally, and this I have read, and I have an ebook of it, this is James Holland's book, Italy's Sorrow, which is really, really terrific. And it goes well with his book that he came out with last year on Monte Cassino. They make a nice pair.
He's a favorite of yours, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I worry about emphasizing it too much, because I don't think he's as brilliant as a lot of other historians, but I really like him, and for me, I think he's just fun to read.
So when you do this, these books are all going to be bouncing off each other in your head, right? When you're doing all these things.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is why I tend to, like, when I do little reading projects for myself, I'll do a bunch on the war in Cassino, and then you can compare them. You can look at their footnotes. Maybe they cite each other if one came later or earlier. It makes nonfiction reading a lot of fun, which is also why I think more people should do it. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I have some World War II stuff. Actually, I have 3 World War II things, don't I? Yeah, but there it is.
Because I already have them, I think.
He got everything. I got John Toland's book on Pearl Harbor, Infamy, which I was mentioning to David and saying that, that there are more comprehensive, even more authoritative histories, but I love John Toland, so I got the trade paperback of The Guns at Last Light by Rick Atkinson. This is the 3rd volume in his trilogy about the U.S. Armed Forces in World War II that starts off with the armed forces not having any idea what to do. The trilogy is the story of the maturation of a fighting force, the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. And by the time you get to this book, not only is the canvas broader, but these are hardened people. They know what they're doing. So this works. I've mentioned before, this works really well as a one-volume history of World War II. It works really well as that. Not exactly, because the earlier campaigns aren't in here. But the reason that I got this, even though I have the ebook, is because this trade paperback has my blurb on it. And I'd never seen the trade paperback out in the wild.
That's my favorite volume in the trilogy, too, I think.
And then this thing, which is some sort of commemorative thing. Who is this? This is Naval Institute Press. Okay, the Naval Institute Press brought out a commemorative edition of Mr. Roberts with a little cloth bookmark there. I didn't realize that. This is, if you know this book at all, you'll know it from the great Henry Fonda movie. With James Cagney doing his best to chew the scenery as a weirdly petty, stupid commanding officer. And I love that movie, and it's got punch of an ending, that you don't see coming, because it's such a fun movie in a way. It's such a fun movie that you don't see the ending coming at all. At least I didn't, and nobody in the theater when I saw it did. But I saw this and realized that although I've watched the movie a million times, I haven't read the book in forever. So, I mean, when this came out in the 1950s, yes, no. Oh, no,
46.
no. Oh, 46. There we go. All right. So those are my World War II books. I got 3 World War II books.
I'm not done.
You're not done by a long shot.
And then here we have Eric Morris again, and this is his book Corregidor, which is awesome. I've only ever had this in the paperback, which is a piece of crap. It just has never held up for me, so just thrilled to have this. Corregidor, of course, in the Philippines. And when the Japanese were first moving south in 1941-42, it was one of the last to fall, so it was of some significance to MacArthur in retaking it. And then here we go to this single-volume overview of World War II. This is Antony Beevor, the Second World War. This is actually, when people do ask me for a recommendation on single-volume histories of the Second World War, this is usually my recommendation.
Not John Keegan.
No, actually. I don't know if this... I think I just like this one a little bit better. I like Keegan well enough. But this is also...
Well,
you see this a lot more than
there's
that
a lot
one.
of human blood pumping through this that Keegan doesn't. Keegan's very much shows the military academy type thing.
Yes.
So that might put off a reader's not used
to it. This might be too long too, but I love this one. I have this at home, but I love this brick paperback, this form factor. So I couldn't help myself but get it. And I've never seen this out in the wild before.
We can now start swapping one for one.
Can we? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think we can. So just go ahead. Yeah.
I found another John le Carré, just the same thing that David found, only I found a copy of my own. I don't think this... There are a handful of John le Carrés that I don't have as ebooks, and this is one of them. Again, with just the iconic back cover. No need to sell the book at this point. No need to sell a John le Carré. All right. Onward for you.
Then here we have Tony Jute. This is Reappraisals. This I haven't read. I, of course, love, like everybody else who's read it, his great book, Post-War. And actually, I was really hoping, I'm always hoping, I think every time we go, that I'll see the hardcover of Post-War, but I never do. You just never do. But anyway, this I haven't read. It looks like it's just considerations of major 20th century events and books. I don't really get the thematic.
I'm pretty sure it's deadline prose.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's just like go to the copyright stuff. Is he citing?
Oh.
New York Review of Books or?
Oh, there's nothing.
Well, up in the front, does he cite where these pieces originally appeared? Yeah. Oh no. No, it doesn't. Well, I'm pretty sure that's what this is.
It looks like
I'm
deadline
pretty sure
prose
it's
as I'm going through it.
It's occasional prose. Much like what I do, only he's better at it than I am. No, really. A little too quick on the acceptance there. Okay, I can do a bunch at once. I got a bunch of westerns. I always do. There's always westerns at the Brattle. And that's, in just 3 weeks, we have June on the Range, big BookTube event celebrating western novels. So I got a bunch of them. I got an anthology. This is the second western anthology I've gotten in 2 months. It's by Dell, so this is going to hold up. Their paperbacks really do hold up. And they're selected by William MacLeod Rain, who I have read for June on the Range. Never heard of him before June on the Range, but I've read him, so no idea what he's like as an anthology editor, but I'll take my chances. Then Range Drifter by Thomas Thompson. That's not going to end well, is it? Not for the guy in blue. The guy in blue, I don't know, unless he's a total greenhorn. I think probably the guy in green is going to get a heavy bore bullet right where it counts the most. But this is by Thomas Thompson, if that's a pen name, whether it is or not. I've never read this author. Then Ruler of the Range by Peter Dawson. He's just... I don't really care. I will go at these. The main reason that I grabbed this is because I don't know this author. I don't think I've read him. Westerns were once so popular that it's easily possible, even for me, to fill a whole month with authors I've never read. Then Rawhide River by Cliff Farrell. That was once called West with the Missouri. It says it's a turbulent tale of the frontier, but that's a sailor's cap that guy's got on, so I don't really know. But this is sturdy enough, well enough preserved so that I can read it. And then finally, The Wyoming Bubble, which I got because the author's name is Vaughn, because how can I turn it down for June on the Range? So again, I don't know this author, and I'm not sure what's going on that cover. The guy with the gun is shooting the rope that holds the guy who's being hanged, and this guy is grabbing onto it. So is he trying to hang him, and he is being rescued by him? I'll read the book and find out. So there you go. That is my next block here is just Westerns. Just a whole bunch of paperback Westerns.
I should have gotten Westerns. But I didn't. This is
the Western Front, you mean?
You're
not fooling anybody. After this, you're not fooling anybody. And you should, like I was telling him, you should have seen it. It's not just that he got, 50 World War II books and 3 Civil War books. It's how he got them. When you bring your non-reading friend to a bookstore and they just sort of glance at things, oh, this looks good, oh, that's good. And then you bring your non-reading friend to a crack den. It was just the same way. It was, Spotsylvania. And then the World War II books, and everything was different.
Even I started to get a little self-conscious about it, but I was still throwing them on the pile, so. But here, I'll give you guys a little breather. This is Alan Eckert, who we've been talking about. This is Twilight of Empire. This is one of the paperbacks. I think you and I have been hauling the hardcovers, which I like better, but this is a really
nice,
good
solid
shape.
thing.
Yeah, this is solid. So I haven't read this one. I'll be happy to know.
I found an anthology, a science fiction anthology. This also dovetails with the BookTube event, Rocket Summer, where we read classic science fiction in July, right in the hot days of summer when all of us somehow managed to associate with science fiction. I found August Derleth, the great August Derleth, and this is an old anthology of his that has. I know when you talk about anthologies, you got to let people know what's in it. So who have we got? Poul Anderson, Isaac Asimov for Death Sentence, Nelson Bond, Ray Bradbury, Cleve Cartmill, Elsbreg de Camp, Get Along, David Keller. I have written David Keller in forever. Henry Kuttner, Fritz Leiber, Murray Leinster, Fletcher Pratt, Clifford Seamack, Good Night, Mr. James, Clark Ashton Smith, Ted Sturgeon, A.E. Van Vogt. So just, gigantic names in this thing. I can never have too many science fiction anthologies, but August Derleth was a legendary figure, so I was glad to see it. I've never seen it before.
Okay, then here, back to form, I have Arnhem, the greatest airborne assault of World War II. And this is by Major General R.E. Urquhart, Urquhart, I guess. And he was actually in charge of the first, division? Yeah, the first division. And
you never see this book. You just never do.
At Arnhem. And Arnhem was a part of a battle in taking bridges, which reminds me of a video we'll watch later, within Operation Market Garden, which was a plan of Montgomery's. So this, again, I've never seen it. I know it. I've seen it cited and whatnot. I know the writer, but I've never read this, so thrilled to see it.
I have another anthology, Dashiell Hammett. Edited, heavy air quotes. If Dashiell Hammett ever came within 100 miles of sifting manuscripts for this book, I'm the czar of all the rushes. But it's Creeps by Night. And what does it say? It says, exciting stories wherein things that can't happen and ought not to happen do happen. And I read that and immediately thought of your visit here. It's already achieved supernatural status, and it's only going to get worse. But I have a sweet spot for anthologies, actually. You get a lot for your buck with anthologies, so.
That's awesome. Then here, this is a history of book.
Oh, is this a World War II book?
By Brian Parrott. Yeah, at first I thought it might not be, because you can trace Blitzkrieg, even though tanks obviously were new, you can trace the idea of Schwerpunkt back fairly far. But this looks like, and the reason I did get it instead of leaving it, is really overview of major German operations, land operations during World War II. I think that's basically, effectively what this is. So,
were there any other reasons why you didn't leave it behind? Perhaps physical incapacity to leave it behind? maybe that was a reason why.
Yeah, I know. As I was saying that, I was like, okay, what was my decision?
He's giving the impression that he's standing there weighing the pros and cons of these things.
Do I have it or do I not?
He was hoovering them up. I found John Mann's book on Gutenberg, the man and the industry and the way it changed reading. And there's a new biography of Gutenberg coming out in just a couple of months. And I don't have a copy of it yet, but when I saw the announcement, there's a team up. There's this series of little biographies that come out of historical figures, and Gutenberg is one of them, and Benvenuto Cellini is the other. And when I saw the Gutenberg announcement, I immediately thought of this book and couldn't quite remember it. Wasn't there a book that came out about 10 years ago that I really liked about Gutenberg? And there it was. Because, and I don't think you'll give me any argument, the Brattle will provide.
It did.
Allow me a little note of pride. My shop kicks ass.
it saved me. It saved me today. This is something I've never seen. This is The Sword's Fierce Edge, a journal of the occupation of Greece, 1941 to 1944. And I was saying a lot. I mean, this is journals, but I don't even think I've read a standalone history of the occupation of Greece.
And like all the rest of us, when confronted with a book by a Greek author, we just politely refuse to even attempt to pronounce the name.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
We'll just call him JT.
Yeah, we'll just call him JT.
JT.
They invented literature, mythology, poetry, and democracy, so we got to give them something. I found a military history, The Spanish War, by G.J.A. O'Toole. O'Toole has been a very popular surname during David's visit, and yet I think O'Toole is going to be elbowed out of the number one spot tonight by a man from Iowa. Did we guess that? But this is the Marne. This is every major figure of the time period. Mark Twain, Clara Barton, Harry Beecher Stowe, 2 U.S. presidents.
Your guys on the back.
4 future U.S. presidents. This is overlooked, but I love this book and have never seen it in the wild. That was the theme of today, so happy to have it. It's the only Spanish War book that I have. Come here. Oh, look.
Sorry, I was thinking about the Maine. This is Hitler's War by Edwin P. Hoyt. And I don't know this, actually. I meant to look into it a little bit more. And yeah, it looks like it's just basically the war in Europe. So I'm not familiar with this volume or this author, at least not off the top of my head.
But that will be another one of your one-volume histories.
Well,
right?
No, actually. So for those of you who don't know, I'm reading every single volume overview of World War II, but my main requirement is that it includes the War in the Pacific.
Oh, the whole war, right?
The whole
okay,
war, yeah. And that also makes it manageable, you know.
I found this. I was blown away. I love this series. There's a series called Britain in Pictures. These tiny little things that have original artwork in them. And I grab these whenever I see them. I don't see them that often. It's a big series. All these titles. And at the Brattle today, there was all of them. All of them but one. There was only one that I know of that wasn't there. And it was English Country Houses. So thankfully, I already have it. But birds, at the time when this book came out, the British were bird crazy. This is going to be wonderful. It's going to be full of lore. I love these things. I have the volume on English Country Houses. I have the volume on Abbeys, and I have the volume on Dogs. And the only other one I was tempted to get today was Roman Britain, and I didn't. But there were 3 copies of it, so it might still be there when I go back.
Isn't bird crazy kind of redundant?
Yeah.
I read a bird book once.
Birders.
Because I was trying to, branch out a little bit. That happens sometimes, but I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever read. Not stupid, but it seemed like the whole point of the book was to give you a couple facts about the bird and then say, isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? So it's probably just the wrong one, but
you make yourself sound so ridiculous when you say I'm trying to branch out, because the next book you're going to show is inevitably anyway. You're looking around for something I can switch it out for you. Did I maybe get something on interpretive dance that I can hold up? But now
I get flashes where I have sudden moments of self-awareness and think I should branch out, but they're few and far between. This is The Ides of May, The Defeat of France, May to June 1940 by John Williams. Shire's book is the one I go to all the time. I know it's not the standard stuff, but I just like reading that one the most. And this one I haven't read. Another book with a swastika on it, not exactly needed on my bookcase, so I'll put it in like that, which is what I've been doing.
He has to do it so that if he invites a young lady over, she doesn't quietly call the police. But I should point out here that this video's views have now spiked because a young man who goes to the gym mentioned the name John Williams. I should point out this is not
the other John Williams. Yes, I was going to make that joke earlier. And
crappy novel Stoner. The crappy novel Stoner. That I've heard just this week on BookTube referred to twice as a pretty much perfect novel. If your idea of a pretty much perfect novel is a novel in which there are no women except as hated figures, you really need to have a chat with your mother or your grandmother. But anyway.
Yeah, read about the fall of France instead.
Yes. I mentioned during Poetry Thursday last year, in the anthology that I'm reading, I got to Edna St. Vincent Millay, the great Edna St. Vincent Millay, and I mentioned that there was a white trade paperback of her collected poems that I'm just waiting for. I want that, and I don't want anything else. I don't want all the slim volumes, and I don't want any modern collection. I want that, and I'll just wait until I find it, because once upon a time it was ubiquitous, and I found the hardcover of that today. This is exactly what I was talking about. A number of you sent me pictures of the cover because you knew exactly what I was talking about. This was for a long time just a fixture in bookstores. So that is, not the find of the day. The find of the day is coming up, but still, great. I don't have to worry about the crappy trade paperback now. I have the hardcover.
I also have poetry by a woman. Oh, wait, no, I don't. This is the story of the Second World War by Henry Steele Commager, I guess. But I don't have this, and there's two overviews of World War II, I think, that I don't have and need to get, and this was one of them. But the reason I was holding off because I'm just worried that it's the Wikipedia entry before Wikipedia for World War II, and I know I'm going to run into that at some point. So we'll see. Either way, I'll read it. It's part of the project. Or maybe it's really good. We'll see.
Well, this was one of the finds of the day. This, obviously, I have a whole bookcase just for this sort of thing. This is George Bernard Shaw's book reviews. Because in the 1880s, Shaw wrote book reviews. I think he did 100 of them. Well, I did at least 100 of them. Were the usual thing, the thing that I know, the thing that every professional book reviewer knows. You go to whatever organization has given you entry to their newsroom, you look at the books, you pick some, maybe you confer with an editor, or if you're a luminary, like, for instance, Edna St. Vincent Millay, or Catherine Ann Porter, or Marianne Moore, the editor will just send you a box of books and hope that one of them sticks. And then you take that book and you write about it, and maybe you get to keep it, or maybe not. And this is... Shaw only did that for a little while. And I believe his book reviews were his first publications, or certainly among his first publications. And this thing is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you, it's amazingly contextualized. You get the footnotes, but also every review gets a grounding. Here is when Shaw got the book. Here is when he started his review. Here is when he ended his review. Stuff that you wouldn't know otherwise unless you pored over his diaries. It's brought into focus here. When I saw that, it reminded me of the collected essays of Virginia Woolf. There's a whole series of that, and that editor does that same job. Just combs through her commonplace books, her diaries, her letters, in order to pull together everything we know about this book before I print the review of this book. This you got a very, very young George Bernard Shaw, looking very Lenin-esque, but that is just joy. Whenever I find something like this, I'm building a collection, and I go back to these books a lot. Like, I don't know that I will in this case because I haven't looked at the table of contents. Maybe Shaw was not much of a picker. Sometimes you go back into the Victorian era and the reviewer is a picker. They know exactly what's going to be around 100 years from now. So it could be that a lot of the books in that book, in this collection, are not anything that's in print or ever has been in 100 years. But
sometimes that doesn't matter, though, right? If the reviewer's good enough.
Oh no, right? I will read them and enjoy them because of Shaw.
Yeah.
But like, can we see?
Oh, there's a ton in that.
Yeah. Yeah, but is there anything that that will be remembered that is still now? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because Shaw's really good, but I'm not seeing much. I'm not, but a brace of novels, some books about poetry, some books about Christmas, that sort of thing. That's what I'll get in here. I've lost myself in books like that anyway. I don't need the books to be forever titles.
Okay, and here we have, this is John Ellis, who's really good. He wrote a great book on the Battle for Casino, actually, which I read.
I never see this book.
What I think it's called Casino, Hollow Victory. But this is Brute Force, Allied Strategy and Tactics of the Second World War. So there, I won't mad around about it, I guess.
I've had this a million times, but I saw it and realized, oh, you like that, and it doesn't take up much space, and you don't have it at the moment. This is Meryl Chris's book, Being Bernard Berenson. And it's just a biography of the man who among many other things, he wrote a bunch of books, and a lot of them are really good. But in addition to all of that, he got his foot on the stage of the world by traveling all over Europe on behalf of Isabella Stewart Gardner and stealing pretty much anything he could get his hands on to be part of her collection. Didn't really care about national patrimony. Was perfectly happy to swindle owners without giving them any idea how priceless the thing they were selling was. He had a devious side, but he knew everybody, including everybody in the literary world. So high time for a reread, I would think.
Okay, then here I have The Story of World War II by Donald Miller. It says it's the inspiration for the History Channel's World War II in HD, which is a pretty good series. This is one I haven't read. Also, I have the e-copy of this and just haven't gotten around to it, but it's this oversized thing. Let's see if I can kind of show you here. Just another overview of World War II. So. You know, sometimes I wonder if I was born before World War II. Shockingly, I wasn't. What would I have read?
World War I.
World War I, I guess maybe it would have been. Yeah, it's obvious.
I found this old volume by John Masefield, the poet John Masefield, on the Spanish Main. It's just a bunch of yarns about buccaneers and privateers and whatnot. It's the kind of thing I always refer to as a Brattle book, where you're not going to see it anywhere else, and it's an oddity, and it's out in the sale lot, so it's not costing you a lot of money. So I'll give it a try. I'm a big fan of nautical stuff. I love Masefield's other stuff. I don't know what he's like as at writing narrative nonfiction.
Oh. And then here, this is one I also haven't read. This is Forgotten Armies, The Fall of British Asia, 1941 to 1945. But it is on my mind because this was a major part of Chamberlain's new book, Overview of World War II, Scorched Earth. And that motivated some of my purchases, I'll admit, too. It's just stuff in that book had me thinking, so I'll read that.
I found a big book also to go along with June on the Range. This is Gunfighter Nation, The Myth of the Frontier, with all these Christopher Russell-style tabs that I will pull out, of course, because this is not a cookbook. But I don't know this work at all. I mean, this must have come out when I wasn't reviewing. It's a University Press, 1998. No, firmly out of reviewing. So I would have missed this completely. And it's you're not supposed to read nonfiction for June on the Range. You're supposed to read shoot-'em-ups, but I'll take it because June on the Range has made me interested in the subject. Far more so than I ever was. There's an enormous book called The Wild West. Gigantic thing, even bigger than this. I read that. Everybody read that. But aside from that, virtually nothing. So, and that was there at the shop today.
Upstairs, right?
But I left it behind. I figured one gun-toting book was enough.
Yeah, well,
oh, my.
Yes,
Goodness.
Well, just since we need God after this. I got Dear Mid McCullough's Christianity, the first 3
You don't have
years.
this?
I have the e-copy, and that's how I read it. So in a way, I probably shouldn't get this because the e-copy is so much more convenient, but this is a book I want. And I never see it at home. Every now and then I'll see it online, and it's just disgustingly expensive, but this was affordable at the Brattle, like everything else is there.
Brattle's not expensive at all.
I couldn't help myself on that one.
That's your last book, isn't it?
That was my last one, so I think you got a few left. Why don't you finish up?
I found William Dyer's book on the American Revolution. You're not an American Revolution guy. Maybe someday.
No.
This is all about. It's a little rah-rah, but it's all about the improbable victory. I mean, there were land victories, and they were improbable. Even in the early days, they were improbable because these ragtag people were fighting trained soldiers. And yet, I found one of Arthur Bryant's volumes on Pepys. This is the volume of the only other thing that we would know Pepys for. If he had never written a diary, or if he destroyed his diaries, we would still know him as a minor figure who reorganized a lot of the mechanics of the British Navy. We would still know that name. You'd have to study the British Navy to see it. But this concentrates on that period of his life. And it was in the sale a lot, and I grabbed it. In part because when you're walking around the sale lot and you see something like this, my first thought was, okay, somebody got rid of this with the original dust jacket. They must have had the other volumes. You'd better grab this one because the other volumes could be scattered all over the lot, and you don't want to leave it behind. So I didn't leave it behind. I saw no other volumes. There were no other volumes of this series. I'll definitely take this one. But I didn't learn my lesson because there was a book that I did leave behind and could not find it for the life of me. Looked twice and couldn't find it for the life of me. And then finally, a book that I have hauled on this channel before. But I got rid of it the minute I held it up. So one of you wanted it. This is Dudley Pope, and this is his version of Horatio Hornblower, or Jack Aubrey. This is Ramage. There were a bunch of Ramage novels there, but this is the only one. I don't like Dudley Pope's Ramage series nearly as much as I like either Hornblower or the Aubrey and Maturin books. The Aubrey and Maturin books would work on you. Very much they would. Now that I think about it, I'm making a mental list of David fiction that might pull him a little away from Monte Cassino. But this is just fine. I believe this was the first one, and it introduces you to the character. And you know with these books largely what you're getting. The author, if his book is successful, is going to follow his character through every rank in the British Navy. One of the other Ramage books that was in the sale lot was Governor Ramage, a much older character. You know you're going to do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good superstructure to do. I believe that Dudley Pope did his series the way Hornblower did, where we meet Ramage as a commander, and later books give us earlier adventures as well as later adventures. But anyway, there you go. That was a Brattle book haul. My shop does not disappoint.
Never.
So now the big question is going to be getting these to you, because the nightmare of a box gone missing.
No, yeah, and I think I know how to handle that, and probably tomorrow instead of book shopping, I should go to the post office. But I got my mojo back.
You do.
You said feels good.
Yeah, he went to the right shop, and he was saved by
the
how
company
broad
could have been
his
better, but
the company wasn't good. Although, at least I had pants on. but you know, if you're
the problem got solved.
if you're Irish American white trash, you're gonna go out in your sweatpants. That's what you're gonna do. But you got your mojo back. You were saved by how broad your reading is.
Well, yeah, no, the war in Italy, the war in the Pacific,
the war in Greece.
Oh my God. Contain multitudes.
Anyway, there you go. There's a book haul for you. David's back in the game, baby. So we'll wrap this up, and there'll be other book hauls. We'll see you then.
See you, BookTube.